Hello, good evening. Welcome to State of Affairs. We are live on GH1 TV. Coming up tonight, we'll be talking to some young adults and also persons of the Federation of Persons with Disabilities, of course. Tonight we'll be finding out if we involve them enough in our electoral process, be it the electoral debates, be it the voting processes, all the sensitization workshops that go on. Do we involve the minorities enough? Well, tonight we'll be speaking to Kina. She leads, of course, Ghana Decides, so she'll be the lead discussant on the show tonight, and she'll be joined by the SRC president of the University of Ghana and also a rep from the Federation of the Disabled. So do stay with me. Also, we are counting down to 1 year of the June 3 disaster, a disaster that rocked the entire nation. Now, the National Coordinator of the National Disaster Management Organization, that's NADMO, Brigadier General Francis Vip Sansiri, says 1 year after the deadly June 3 disaster, not much has been done to save the country from future floods. He has cautioned Ghanaians to be responsible and stop building on waterways and dumping indiscriminately.
I think there are a combination of factors that led to the flooding last year. One, I will talk about the engineering of our drains. Our drains large enough? Are they well constructed? Are they well connected to ensure a thorough or a smooth flow to the sea? And I think that was one of our problems. The main problem that prevented water going into the sea was the Odo drain and the Kole Lagoon. Other factors that also contributed were human activities. Of course, urbanization is the order of the day, and most of the rural dwellers are drifting into the city. So the city is getting choked, and we have slums developing all over the place. Of course, because they are not well planned, the resultant is we cannot manage those situations. Waste is not being managed. Such slums are not positioned at the right places. Some are in waterways. So these all have culminated in so many things that have prevented water from flowing smoothly into the sea. Our city plans being adhered to, I don't think we are adhering to the city plans as laid down by town and country planning of the city. We have buildings springing up right in waterways. So all these things, I believe, are the things that culminated into the floods. These are just some of them. So what I will say is it different this year as we sit here? The situations I'm talking of, have they changed? Let's go to Odo. I've always visited Odo. I should have been there yesterday, but I'll be going there on Thursday to see the progress of work there. And what I can tell you is there is work going on steadily. But is it fast enough to prevent or to allow water to flow freely through it? Yes, water will flow through it because they've done some level of work there. But that water is flowing into the Kole Lagoon through the clip interceptor. The clip interceptor is no more functioning. So it's not playing the role it should have been playing, clearing most of the plastic and whatnot waste to allow the water to flow. So that place is still choked. The Kole Lagoon is still choked. So even if the odor is cleared, the water will not flow freely into the sea because that area is still blocked. So that is it for the what do you call it, the odor and then the Korle Lagoon. There is work going on, but it's not fast enough. And the rains have met us. Have we stopped building in waterways? We are still doing it. Are slums springing up still or not? We must have cleared Old Fadama, but more slums are coming up in other places. And those areas are equally low-lying. So if we put all these factors together, seeing what the situation was last year and what the situation is this year, if I'm to make an assessment, I will say we are making progress, but the progress is not fast enough to prevent the floods. And I was therefore not surprised that last week, when we had that minimal rain, that was not any excessive rains, we still experienced some aerial flooding. Of course, that wasn't very heavy, but we had aerial flooding. Those are the first rains that we are beginning to get. The ground is getting saturated. So it comes to a point that when the ground is fully saturated, it will not absorb any water. And that water all will now have to flow. So I foresee us having floods again. Because we have not done so much that was expected by way of clearing the drains, desilting the existing ones, and repairing most of those which are damaged.
That was the National Coordinator for NADMO, Brigadier General Francis Vip Sansiri, speaking to State of Affairs, and we have the entire interview to be aired on Friday, so do tune in. And June 3, of course, we'll have a special coverage of the 1-year anniversary. Now, we move on, and we're still concentrating on the disaster. This time around, we've been talking to some journalists who covered the disaster.
I think after the incident for about a week or so, I hardly wear shoes because when I put on shoes, I feel some burning sensation all over my feet. And I could not sleep for almost 3 months because whenever I try to close my eyes, I realize no, I'll just be, seeing the dead bodies. It's something that I wish it would never have happened, but only God knows. As I'm talking to you now, the trousers that I used, that I wore that day, is still there. I've not washed it. I've decided to keep it there. After the 1 year, then I throw it away.
When we got there initially, you could hear people screaming. I heard people screaming, people calling for help. So I thought initially that it wasn't anything serious because of where we're standing. I just thought that it was people who were trapped. There were just people who were trapped there. And then I realized that people were in agony, people were in pain, because as I heard them screaming, then I remember very well that the screams and the cries for help began fading gradually, indicating that they were actually losing their breath. They were just going. Yes, that was it. Basically, that's what I remember.
Well, it looks like a war-torn zone for me because that very night I was there. I was right by the car bank new building. Then I saw a huge flame of fire. People were screaming. The fire service boss himself was there. The fire service men were also there. And it looks like nobody could do anything about it because the road has been occupied with flood and you couldn't cross and they didn't know what to do. So we just have to stand helplessly watching what was going on. So maybe I'm passing at that place, then it just comes back to my memory that, wow, this is what happened here. But I think that maybe we could have done a lot about it by now. 1 year on, you still go to the Odo River and then you realize that it's still choked. So many weeds, so many sand in the main drainage. And I think we've not learned a lesson from it.
We were in the office and we started getting distress calls about flooding all over the city. So that was what we were actually covering. And then we had a blast. You know, the place is just closer to us, so we could see the smoke. So I am an online person. I'm the online manager here. So what I needed was photos, videos, to be able to tell the story of what was happening at the place. So I went there with my news editor, Richard Mensah. So before you got to the place, you could, where the Samsung office is, the whole area was flooded. It was almost at our waist level, but we had to go through the flood, and then we saw people coming. There were people rushing towards our end, and then we saw a police vehicle rush to the place. The police vehicle, it was a very huge tanker, but they could not go through the water. So the police got down, parked. There were about 3 vehicles, the tanker with some pickup, and then they went through. The first thing we saw was someone bent all over, being carried onto the pickup, and it was very terrible.
Right, you're still watching State of Affairs live on GH1 TV and streaming live as well on my YouTube account. Search for me, Nana Aba Anamwa, and join the discussion. Also, this Friday, of course, everyone's attention will be on that filling station, the Goyle filling station, where the disaster happened. Well, Armstrong Alugbe was there today to find out exactly what is happening there with a day to the remembrance.
Last year, few days after the June 3 disaster, a 5-member committee was set up to investigate the cause of the fire at the Goyle filling station and recommend ways to prevent future occurrences. The committee recommended the complete dredging of the Odo River, banning the use of plastics as carrier bags. Chaired by Justice Isaac Duse, a retired appeals court judge reported 5 houses, including the Goyle filling station, suffered various degrees of damages as a result of the fire, valued at 1,658,847 Ghana cedis, adding that other properties suffered minor damages which have not been valued. 17 motor vehicles, including a fuel tanker, were burnt beyond repair. A mini-mart located within the filling station, Bediako Pharmacy and the Honest Chef restaurant were completely destroyed. A year on, some gutters are still choked with people still building on waterways and dumping plastic waste around indiscriminately. In an attempt to create public awareness about the effects of dumping of plastic waste indiscriminately, an artist called Faisal Dauda has designed statues using plastics showcasing the June 3 disaster.
If you look at it, you can see a man standing there. The man signifies the security agencies or the fire servicemen who came in rescue to people. The man is sharing tears. The tear signifies that this is the darkest tears. You could see it with black quality. This is the darkest tears that Mother Ghana has ever shed. So if you could see in the arms of the man, you could see a pregnant woman, one of the pregnant women who has lost their life through that kind of disaster. So from there, you could also see downward there, you could see some children in another shape. There are some of the children that has been flooded and killed. And you could see also plastic there, how I created it like a water, so that it signifies the flooding and some other thing. And inside the water, you could also see the plastic materials that used to choke the water and let the water flood to our places or houses and kill us.
He added, cleaning the society is the responsibility of all and not only the role of state authorities.
Okay, so we will now shift our attention to other stories. We're going to do our countdown to the elections, and Benefson has actually been doing that countdown for the EIB network. And also, I'm reminding you to download the EIB Election Hub app on iOS and Android and participate in the opinion polls. Coming up now is our countdown to the elections.
Well, last week, I'm sure you would have seen this front page of the paper I edited. That is our members of parliament, who forces them to be there. This front page arose out of the two members of parliament we are talking. We are talking about Alhaji Muntaka, Mohammed Muntaka, who is the NDC MP for Asawasi in the Ashanti region, and Mrs. Ursula Ewusu Ekufo, who is the MPP member of parliament for Ablekuma West in the Greater Accra region. They are talking about a survey conducted on how people will vote for their MPs. Alhaji Muntaka said that you will need at least 500,000 Ghana cedis, that is the cost, to effectively prosecute a campaign to be a member of parliament. Mrs. Ekoful, on the other hand, said, look, MPs often, when they leave office, when they leave parliament, when they lose their primaries or decide not to go again, they are so much weighed down by debts that they have to pay that it pushes some of them to their early grave. And he said that some of the MPs are usually better off when they are in parliament. So the question we asked in our paper, and we are asking you now, who forces them to be members of parliament? Yes, some of them, they go one term and they leave. The point is that you should realize that when you go there and it's so bad, you must leave. Some of them are their only first timers, and out of 275, that is those who are elected to parliament, who were sworn in on January 7th, 2013, only about 25 did not contest their party's primaries. That means this number 25, that means 250 all wanted to go back. And yet about 40 are not coming back. That means they lost. There must be something there. Towards 2016, this year, since beginning of last year, 2015, most of the politicians aspiring to maintain their seats or challenge others, they've identified the delegates and they go around, they give them roofing sheets. They ask, oh, how can we pay you, help you pay your school fees? Funerals, you invite them, they come. You go to their house, they welcome you. Even if they are eating, they wash their hands and receive you. All this be from full respect. And the party delegates too are aware that you'll be needing their votes, so you are becoming all of a sudden their party and friend. They know that when elections are held, the first 1.5 years, these people often put beware of the dogs on their gate. The dogs will be there, yet before elections, you needed them, they will change the dogs and let them come. You just put beware of the dogs. So they know. So the children of these delegates whose lifestyles change 2 years to elections believe that if my father works in the civil service or is a farmer or something, and 2 years, some kotoaba, I mean, for shiki, they're going to elect a candidate, roofing sheet, making roofs are, roofing sheets are provided, chicken and goat play around their mother's soup. They want to be party delegates. And what the political parties have done, the MPP started it. They increased the number of delegates, and the NDC took over, and they've made it virtually like a general election. And I'm sure the MPP too will follow suit. Sir John, the former general secretary of the MPP, said that apart from death, what you must fear are delegates. So the two of them all play games. And that, I think, that is what we need to realize. So, and the competition is intense in the safe seats. You see, when it's a safe seat, usually you spend more money winning your party's primary in the safe seat, knowing that you are almost there in parliament. Once you win, for the swing seats, you have to spend money winning your party's primaries and spend money in terms of convincing people in the swing. But for the safe seat, it's usually very tough. So, yes, our honorables, yes, they have a right to say that things are difficult. But please, if it's so difficult, don't come again. Say bye-bye to parliament.
Okay, we are taking a break. When we come back, we'll be getting into our actual discussion. Remember, every year or every election year, we are told that every vote counts. everyone's vote is important. Once you're 18 and above and a Ghanaian and of sound mind, your vote is very important, especially to the political parties. But do they do enough for the minorities especially? Well, when we come back, I'll be talking to Esinam Siade. She's the SRC president for the University of Ghana. Also, Joshua Makube is the representative, or he's representing the Ghana Federation of the Disabled. And Kena Likimani is a project lead for Ghana Decides. We'll get into that discussion in a tad. Do stay with us. You're welcome back. Tonight we are discussing increasing participation of young people and persons with disabilities in the electoral process. Have we really increased participation for these persons? Well, we'll be talking about that with Kena Likimani. She was here last week, Friday. Well, she's back. She's a project lead for Ghana Decides. It's good to have you back, Kena. People actually enjoyed you last week.
We had a good show, didn't we?
Yes, I really
hope
enjoyed.
the IGP had.
All right, so Joshua Makube, I hope I got
Makubu.
Makubu is a rep of the Ghana Federation of the Disabled.
Federation of Disability Organizations.
Of disability organizations, okay. And then also we have Esinam Siade. She's the SRC president for the University of Ghana. Congratulations to you. When were you elected?
28th of April.
Ah, yeah. How's it going?
It's been okay.
You know, she'll get into politics later in life.
That's why we're talking to her now.
Hopefully you'll be a very good politician.
Yes. I hope so.
Interesting. Ken, I'll start with you. You've been doing this for a while. You've been interacting with the minority groups for a very long time. Tell us, I usually want to start with the election that was very close. So I'll go to 2012. Between 2012 and now, what has changed?
Okay.
Has anything improved?
The first thing I'm going to do is your correction on using the term minority, because in Ghana, in fact, the marginalized are the majority. If we count,
really?
Yes. If we count young people in terms of visibility and ability to participate and being allowed to even participate within the political space. So when we talk about youth voices of the marginalized women, we are in the majority. So when we talk about marginalized voices, while you are on the media and you have this space, when we count the number of women who are participating publicly, visibly in our political space, we are marginalized, but we are not in the minority in terms of actual numbers in Ghana. So that's
so we're in the majority.
We are.
Okay.
The majority of Ghana is marginalized. People will take issue with that.
Well, that's true. I mean,
but that's how
it's debatable.
Yes. So that's how I would define it.
Okay, fantastic.
So we started Ghana Decides in 2012. It's the election project of Blogging Ghana. We are funded by Star Ghana. And when we started, I mean, the short answer is that no.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing much appreciably has changed.
Okay.
When we look at the numbers, when we look at the ability of young people to engage with leadership, and leadership listens, seeking accountability. I'm sure my colleague here will have a lot to say about the issues that people with disabilities have faced.
Yeah.
Generally as a society, and it reflects, generally as a society, we are not working on the issues that we need to, and so things are not moving as fast as they could, as we need them to be. And people who are marginalized at various levels of marginalization are always made to feel like you should be patient, change is coming, and then it's 4 years, change is coming, and then it's another 4 years. So I stand on the side of nothing much has changed. We need to do more. There will be pockets of improvement here and there, but by and large, Ghana is not. I mean, just the other day, yesterday or today, they released a ranking of child slavery. Ghana is number 34, and we know this is so. If we haven't eradicated that, which I would count before they are even marginalized or vulnerable, we have to free them.
Yeah.
So nothing. We have a lot more to do to go as a country. But within these past 4 years, not really.
No. Okay.
Although I have to say that Anoye, the minister has been making, but it has been making inroads. But I think that generally, as a posturing in our society, it's like the videos people were showing. We have flats 1 year, and then almost all of us close our minds, and then it's coming and like, but the government hasn't done anything. But we have to stop being comfortable with the death of Ghanaians.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, before I come to the two of you, do you take time to study the manifestos of the political parties?
I do.
Okay, would you say in 2012, the NDC and the NPP, they had different themes. The NDC called it Better Ghana Agenda. The NPP said transforming lives, changing people, I think something of that sort. Did they touch on the disabled persons, for instance?
There was some 1 or 2 clauses. Okay. I have to say that when you look at NDC, since they are the ones in power, again, the refocusing of the ministry that Honorable Nanoye Letha runs, even though I hear that she's been under lots of pressure with the funding issues, but we have to commend her on the ways in which she's brought the donor community together to help her move forward. So I think that in that sense, some of the programs that she has put in place may have even outpaced the certain sections of the manifesto in terms of this is her focus, this is what she wants to see. However, no, in fact, even things like ramps, accessibility, I don't want to preempt what he's going to talk about, but we've had a bill in place, and I think we gave ourselves 10 years grace period in which we're supposed to get all buildings wheelchair accessible or accessible to people with disabilities, and we are behind. It's mind-boggling how architects can put buildings together, and it's not always government, you see. So it's mind-boggling. They will put buildings together and not make it accessible to persons with disability. We have to change. So sometimes it's not just the government. At this point, I don't know what else we are going to say to people when they come into power to change their minds. At this point also, we need to talk to Ghanaians more about, there are some of these things that we should be on the forefront of,
Okay. Now, I have to come to you now. Joshua, do you agree? Nothing has changed. Do you agree with that?
You can partly.
Okay.
When it comes to elections, as far as the Electoral Commission is concerned, I think we have made some progress as far as the ability to vote independently is concerned.
Okay.
Regarding our brothers who are visually impaired, I think now we have something in place called the Total Ballot Jacket, where someone who is visually impaired can now go to the polling station and vote on his own without any assistance, or asking someone to vote for him, who might even vote for the person he doesn't want. But generally, getting persons with disability to participate in the Ghanaian society, I'm afraid.
So that is where you agree with
Yes,
that?
that's why I agree with her.
So highlight it. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, accessibility is a major issue. You go to our schools, not only the primary schools, the secondary schools, the universities. Bear in mind that I've just left one of the universities of this country. I'll be graduating next month.
Congratulations.
Anyway. He said actually getting to class becomes a problem. You sit down and then you look at some of your colleagues being carried by their colleagues to a club. Obviously, if it is me, I don't think I can get to class and then when someone has to carry me. Then you come to employment. Persons with disability are still being seen as people who, if you put them there, they are
That's
just
a picture of one
yeah,
of those. This is from the University of Ghana.
Oh, Ghana. It's appalling. Why should this be happening in Ghana by this time? And then it's like, when it comes to issues of persons with disability, like...
This is pretty sad. I'm sorry, I had to... This is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you get somewhere, like, I was telling somewhere after my first degree, there was no way I was going to do a second degree in Ghana if I had to go and face an interview panel. The only way I got myself to do a second degree was I had to go and write exams. And that one, I know that you will not see that this is a paper written by someone who is physically disabled. You mark and the grade will tell. And you call me. It's only when I get there you realize I'm disabled. By then, there's nothing you can do but to appear before the Ghanaian community today. The prejudice is still very high. The discrimination is very high. That is why we in the disability movement, we are proposing inclusive education. not education where persons with disability will be segregated. You go somewhere, nobody sees you, then they bring you back and society finds it difficult to accept you. So I think nothing much has really been done. She made reference to the office of the Honorable Minister, and another leader. It's something having an office and another thing making the office to work. I tell you, if you get into the disability movement, you realize that we are really not satisfied. Our expectations have not been met. Okay. Nana Elita was an asset to the disability community. But when she moved there, our hopes and our aspirations have been dashed.
Well, it's a pretty difficult office for her. I must say that Nana Oyeletha puts in a lot of effort, you know, but it's not so simple, you know, getting people to change their attitudes. But she's doing some work. So, you know, sometimes I just don't want us to overly criticize her, you know, but she's putting in a lot of shift, you know, to get all of us happy. But it's pretty difficult. But that was just by the way. Yeah.
So I think when it comes to PWDs actually participating in governance and then other facets of our Ghanaian society, we are not asking for people to sympathize with us. No.
Absolutely not.
No. Give us equal access. Give us equal opportunity.
Do you think that your issues, your concerns are important to the political parties? Do you feel they put any priority on your concerns?
That one, I doubt. Just as you were saying, if you take the 2012 manifestos, I think some places you see issues on persons with disability coming to the latter part of and you take it as just about half a paragraph. When we had a workshop, the whole of last week, where we went to a workshop actually putting together key issues we want the political parties to make commitments to. And in the event that they form government, we will engage you based on those issues. And we have sent out letters requesting to meet some political party leaders. And so far, it's only the PPP that has given us the opportunity.
How long ago did you send out these letters?
We sent out the letters a month ago, and we followed up with what letters. However, one political party, the NPP, had their manifesto committee calling on us on several occasions to submit the input so they can work with it. Then after that, if we have
that's a start.
Yeah, that's a start.
It's encouraging.
But we actually want to have that tete-a-tete with them and then get it through.
Okay, we'll get into the issues a bit later. Esinam. Young people, I mean, every election year, you hear this election is about the young people. And then unemployment is such a big issue. The NDC is discussing it, the NPP is discussing. In fact, sometimes they even debate over who has created more jobs. Ridiculous, really. You're a young person and you're leading the University of Ghana as a SRC president. Would you say that you are involved much in the electoral process? Do you find the political parties attaching importance to your needs?
I wouldn't say so. Over the years, well, let me give a case study of the 2012 elections. We realized that the population of young people that participated actively in the elections were about approximately 60%. And whether we like it or not, this is a majority of the entire electoral population. But as to whether, at the end of the day, most of the things that were stipulated to be for the young people were given to them remains a question.
What are these things that you are looking at?
We want to have a situation where we can directly relate to the manifesto of these people. They state explicitly what they want to do for us. Further arguments have had it that when the governments come into power, all the sectors or all the ministries have some amount of a budget allocated for the young people. When the youth and sports is seeing a very dwindled amount of money being channeled for the youth. So we realized that we don't really have a huge stake, or they don't really make us a focal point when they actually tell us they do. To a large extent, it has to do with what the institutional architect is, how it is showing that the youth is the focus. Right. We don't want to be seen as those who would be the final or the very later beneficiaries of it. Let us be the direct beneficiaries of whatever your manifesto is saying, because we are the kingmakers. if we constitute the 60% of the population of those who are going to be a part of, we want to know what exactly. Over the years, I don't think it's been the case. This time around, we are very vigilant. We don't want to be oblivious of that. We want to know what the political parties have for us.
Okay, but if they launch, I mean, most of them are yet to launch their manifestos. If they launch these manifestos and you realize that, you know, what you're looking for is not featured prominently in the manifestos, what would the youth of Ghana do?
We are becoming very eye-opened. We know what we want. Whether we like it or not, we form a huge part of the citizenry, and we are entitled to certain benefits or certain things that your manifesto would promise us. If you're depriving us of that, it means that certain rights that are accrued to us are being denied us. And so you shouldn't expect us to, give us, it's about the supply and demand chain. You are the ones supplying what you want, and we are the ones going to demand and feed on what you're giving us. And so if what you're supplying us is not content enough, I don't think we patronize it, and we will not go for it. So among all the political parties that are going to bring their manifestos, we are expecting a very explicit, package that will be for the youth. Because whether you like it or not, we are the kingmakers, like I said.
Okay, Ken, I'm coming back to you now. I mean, if you listen to both of them, obviously, they're not happy. The young people are not getting what they want. The persons with disabilities are not getting what they want. You like to call them, all these people in the majority. But they're not too happy. So who are benefiting?
Well, there is...
Who are the lucky ones?
There is... Ghana itself is 70% informal, 20% formal, 28% or something like that. Within that 28% is I think what they will call the middle class.
So they are benefiting.
But mostly the benefits, the power and the resources in Ghana benefits the 28. But within that 28 is even a smaller number of mostly able-bodied men with able-bodied Ghanaian women, highly powerful, very resourced. And that's who Ghana actually, that is the focus of our attention. But it should be the other way around, because at the heart of what we are getting at is what is it that I keep coming back to? What is it that as a nation we want to achieve? Who do we want to help with our public resources? Whose issues concerns us the most? And it shouldn't be the fact that I have money or I have power, I am able-bodied, I am middle-aged, I want more, so give it to me. That is not going to lead us to the society where, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so increasingly when we, especially the youth, when we make them not independent and when we make them not free, I've stopped talking about youth empowerment. I don't know what that is anymore. I don't know what people are talking about. I like to talk about youth independence and youth freedom. What happens is that it becomes a vicious loop. When they grow up, they perpetuate the same cycle. And we continue to have a society that the people, and I love the fact that she's talking about kingmakers. Because this is not how we think about young people. Young people are not kingmakers. The marginalized are not, but they are. They are the ones that vote. They are the ones the majority. So it's good that she's identifying that young people are kingmakers. What we need then is for young people to attach and have attachment to the power.
How do they do that?
I think young people should be a lot more. See, we right now it's clear, people are not going to give you the space. So you have to take the space.
Right.
We in Ghana created the political space. We can't let the politicians just run willy-nilly in that space. That space is ours, granted by our constitution. Right. So I think the idea that young people, and I like the fact that she's pointing to a youth that is possibly going to demand more. I think people should not stop demanding, but not only from government, but from society at large, you see. Because these issues cut across. If you find that the government is not situated and their point of view isn't on young people, certainly in the private sector, it isn't either. This is what I'm trying to say.
I get you, yeah.
So, young people who are marginalized, if we talk about, for instance, rent control, if we talk about some of these things that are not sexy because they are not oil and they don't produce, you know what I mean. But the sort of things that really affect Ghanaian lives, literacy, rent issues, job issues, education issues, The young people must actually this is their country. They are in the majority. It is their future. We do not have a future if we don't secure theirs. So we want to, I would like to hear less of they must as opposed to we are going to demand, and not stop when they get discouraged, because there will be a lot of discouragement and they mustn't stop.
Okay, but when you look across the political divide, I mean, focusing on all the political parties, you realize that they are led by people with, visions, They are well-educated, well-traveled. So they've seen it being replicated somewhere. It's done across the world, not majority of the countries, but they go to these enlightened countries. So they see the priority that is attached to young people and persons with some form of disability. Why can't we do it here? Why?
To answer that question, I think I'll go back to 1957. Let's go back in time. So when we were going for our independence, it was clear. We had some goals. We were going to we wanted to self-determine. Kwame Nkrumah said that we have the right to choose the wrong way, we have the right to choose the bad way. I'm paraphrasing. But after we got independence, we were not free. Once you change the flags and you self-determine, it doesn't mean that you've achieved all the freedom. Remember, we were coming from a system that privileged the very few, and most of them were not. We were colonized. But we've stopped the decolonization project. Because some people have gotten power, the middle class, we've created some educated class, we stopped seeking freedom for the majority of our people. And this is what the problem is. And that's it. If we don't decolonize, for instance, so it comes back to, are we always going to agriculture? Agriculture is not a sector where Ghanaians experience freedom. Okay, so when you look at cocoa, the ways in which we still do cocoa is structured on how it was when agriculture is so easy to see how we haven't done it. And if we don't do it, if our leaders and ourselves, we do not have the courage to do it, we will continue to be people who are basically in bondage still. And people get offended when they hear that I say Ghanaians aren't free. We are not free, and Africans are not free. When people talk about being carried into classrooms, that is not freedom, and that's not independence. So what we are talking about is our leaders, and that is where we are failing in actually articulating a vision for Ghana, a reason why we continue to be a country, and what it is that we want for our own people. We avoid that conversation. Like somebody, I have a colleague who always asks, what is the Ghanaian dream? What is our dream? We've stopped dreaming. In fact, we don't even talk about our dreams. The Court of Arms says freedom and justice. That is part of our dream. We don't ever refer to freedom and justice. So how are leaders going to change the society for us when we have stopped the project of freeing ourselves? What is the Ghanaian dream?
Yeah. Joshua, you voted in 2012?
I voted in 2012.
What was the most important issue at the time to you? Why did you vote?
I voted in 2012. Basically, I want to have quality education. I want to have a job that will make me respected, that will make me responsible, to also be able to take care of other people.
Have your expectations been met?
No. It's a very big...
You think your expectations will be met?
I said now, I don't even want to think about that. Because from 2012, I graduated from the University of Science and Technology with a first degree in natural science. Wow. I had no job. I was left at the mercy of a private SHS, where you see what you do, and then what they are giving at the end of the day was not worth it.
You were teaching?
Yeah, I was teaching. I taught elective maths and
But
commerce.
that's not what you wanted to do?
That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Then the only option that I was left with was to try and see if I can get back to school. Then I came back to the University of Ghana, business school. Whilst I was there, I sent out some few applications. I never had any invitation for any interview, let alone getting a job. And even haven't done, I finished my, coursework and then my thesis somewhere last year. There are not any signs of getting a job, and then that will be defeating. And if you look at it, just as you were saying.
What sort of job are you looking for? A white-collar job? You're looking for a white-collar job.
Yep, if I get a white-collar job, that will give me the foundation to establish myself, and then I can start doing something. Okay. You see, when people say that we are looking for white-collar jobs, that's what we are not getting.
Because you've had that argument that the youth are probably, the graduates are not thinking outside the box. And some say that the university curricula has become so boring and so static. So they're not producing graduates who are, you know, very adventurous, creative, innovative. You've heard all of that.
Yeah, but it's not only about looking outside the box. If you look outside the box and there's no cuts, what do you report on?
That's a funny one.
Yeah, you're looking outside the box, you want to start a business. You don't even know where to get the capital from. I think when the resources are there, one can always start something and then make it to some level. It's not everybody who would definitely have to be employed in the public sector. No, we have, but it's just that it's not possible. We are not having the conducive environment to set up this. Businesses that are already established are collapsing. How much more thinking about what? Starting a new business. So if someone is saying that we don't think outside the box, I don't think that is really true. I've met a lot of guys who have schooled both at the undergraduate level. They have fantastic business ideas. Some even come. I've ever helped some people put out about 2 or 3 proposals, but how to get funding became a problem.
Right.
Yeah. Even right now, when you are trying to, our system is just very frustrating. Even when you have to do your own work within the. I was telling someone that when I needed to do my thesis, I applied for data in Ghana. 3 months after I've applied for data in Ghana, I was not getting the data. It took me 15 minutes to get that data from the United States of America to run my model. Yeah, it took me 15 minutes to get the data. Yeah. So up to date, I'm done with my thesis. It has been
still not received it.
I've still not gotten data. So if they say we are not looking outside the box, it's just the systems that are in place are not helping us to do anything on our own. So I think that we have voted for people. We are paying them out of our taxes. And I think they owe us a responsibility.
Do you think that can ever change?
Yeah, I don't want to say...
I mean, you'll be going back to the polls later this year, right?
Yeah.
Your expectations have not been met, but you still want to vote, make your thumb count.
Yes.
You know, later I'll ask Kena if it will be wise for anybody, for instance, to say that I'm boycotting this election because, you know, my expectations have not been met since maybe 2000 or 1996. I mean, that would be ridiculous. But sometimes you just wonder why we electing the people if they're not giving us what we want. But anyway, that's for Kena to think about. Okay, Esinam. I mean, listening to him, how does that make you feel? I'm sure in your school you've seen all of these persons with disability. That video we saw earlier was from your school. And I remember a few years ago, I did a story on a blind student, a visually impaired student at the University of Ghana. And I was so heartbroken. I just couldn't understand why society could be so cruel to, you know, certain people. You see that a lot in your school.
I do. As a
what
matter
has your
of fact,
school done to change that? I mean, you pride yourselves as the premier university.
Because we are.
Okay, but it must come with a lot. We must see that you are the premier university. How old is the University of Ghana? Old.
We're over 48.
And we'll get there, right? Anyway, Ghana will still get there too.
Seventh best in Africa. So.
But something must show.
Yes. Actually, let me just give a very recent development. What happened in my elections was we had an aspirant who was visually impaired, and everybody encouraged him to, you know, go for it. We were about 8 presidential candidates, and he was one of them. We gave him all the support he could get. He had a running mate who was not visually impaired, who could see, and as we speak, there are different communities that dedicate their time to support these persons with disabilities, and they try to take them around and all. But we still need some facilities that should be improved to fit to these people. We have certain halls of residences that are disability friendly. So if somebody is in a wheelchair, the person may be living in Sabah Hall, because entering Sabah Hall is easiest than maybe climbing a 5-foot, structure. We are trying as much as possible to get to the point where everybody will feel very equal, or there'll be equity among, irrespective of your disability or your handicap, if I should use that word. Even from the SRC level, we want to form an alliance of students who dedicate their time in supporting our friends that need the help. And so we would want to take it upon ourselves.
I think that is not what they want. They're not looking for help from their colleagues. They're not looking for sympathy from their colleagues. They want the system to change so that if you're able to climb a staircase or ply a road driving, they should also get equal access. That's what they're looking for, no, Joshua?
Yes. We have to be very real about these situations. Whether we like it or not, there are certain structural developments that will be inconvenient to some of them because of certain ways. We are not technologically advanced to have certain things like Pastor Nick would have, for instance, because of his disability. So it's about we having the patience and saying that, look, it is a work in progress. Right. We can be able to get this at this particular time. Maybe progressing.
But is this something you'll
be
pushing to the university authorities?
We want to try and make all the buildings disability friendly. Okay. We can't have certain residential facilities disability friendly because of how they were put up. What we can do is to push for more that are going to be newly structured and will accommodate our friends that are like that. But as we speak, we can't be able to
chip something in here.
I think it's not, we are not saying that we can get everything before we start. Let's get to the University of Ghana Business School. You have classes that are on the ground floor, and you know you have admitted persons with disability. Why will you allocate classes on the 3rd and the 4th floors for them? As at the time that class is going, there's another class going on at the ground floor where there's nobody in that class with what? Disability. So it's just that we are completely being ignored. Today, as I speak to you, the Graduate Student Association of the University of Ghana, they are doing a handing over, and they are doing it at the Great Hall. The question I ask myself is, the Great Hall that we are going, if someone is in a wheelchair, is that place accessible? You could have looked at another venue that will be accessible to the people. So we appreciate the fact that we cannot turn everything disability friendly, but just having the disability concept in your mind when you are thinking, you'll be able to do something.
This is the help that I've been talking about. My help that I'm referring to is
sorry,
not the PT.
You're not on fire right now.
I understand, but to a large extent, having an alliance of students who are rightly representing the interests of these people is a true reflection of they've been thought of or they've been thought about. It means that this is the body of students that would go to the school's authorities and say, we want A and B to be changed in favor of them. We go to the academic affairs directorate and say, we want the classes to be scheduled. I know people who personally couldn't take certain courses because they don't have conducive classroom facilities that will help them. Right. And so it means that they have to take other courses that are available because the buildings that the classes are taken in are suitable for them, which is not very fair enough. So the groups that are going to be established are basically going to be a voice for these people who want to add up to their plea and making sure the management focuses on them.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come back, Kena, you'll have to answer that question for me.
Why vote?
Yes. When nothing seems to be changing. Anyway, so let me take some messages you've been sending to us across our social media platforms. I'll start off with Twitter. This one here, coming from Mensa Ankaba, says, the persons with disabilities in this country are always discriminated against. I know very well that I sat on one session for an interview. A very competent guy was not recruited because he's disabled. Well, that's pretty sad. There are more messages. Ghana Decides is just taking over my timeline. Kina, warn your people. Okay, so this gentleman calls himself Doom Mahama, and he says that reality is that politics is a white-collar job. Madam Rose Araba, I'm not Araba, I'm Abba. Anyway, so he says politics is a white-collar job. That's a funny one. Anyway, there's another one here from Asari who says, well, I love the discussion that is going on State of Affairs tonight. The sad part is that the politicians will not listen. They'll pretend to care, but they don't care. Araba Aidu says, Nanaba, I'm a disabled young girl. I graduated from the university recently. I do not have a job. I've gone to several companies. They just won't employ me because I'm disabled. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Really? Even when you're competent?
I'm sure we are off air now.
We are not off air. We are still on air. Well, you wanted to tell me something off air. I'd love to hear it on air. I'd like to hear it on air. The fact is that young people constitute majority of voters in this country. During election campaigns, the politicians just come around and give us gifts, thinking that is all we need. Is that true?
Very true. Very true.
Have you been given a mattress?
Nope.
A bag of cement?
Nope.
Anyway, let's take a break. You tell us what your friends have been receiving. Okay, we'll be back. Welcome back to the show. It's State of Affairs Wednesday edition, Ghana Decides, and I'm here with Kina Lekimani. She's a project lead for Ghana Decides. Also Joshua Makubu, a rep of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations. I got it right this time. Yay. And Esinam Siade, she's the SRC president of the University of Ghana. Okay, Kina, over to you now.
The question of...
Yes.
Why should people vote?
Why should we still vote?
My short answer, because I'm not here to promote anybody not voting, but my short answer is go and vote. The long answer, though, is that, you know, democracy places the greatest burden of all the governance structures on the citizen. We left a military rule, and we came to a system that is for the citizens, by the citizens. Mm-hmm. Now, the focus, we've made our democracy really, we focus a lot on elections. Because, again, we have created the political space and left it to the politicians. So the need to always select the people to come in power is when it seems we are most engaged with our democratic system. But really, it's a system now driven to elect power, to elect leadership. But the issue becomes, what happens after we vote? How are we going to hold? So you voted a party, and I've said whatever happens, go and vote. And mind you, I'm very honest and say that, you know, I have voted spoiled ballot before.
Was it deliberate?
It was deliberate.
Why?
I didn't like any of the options before me, and there is no. In India, they have, I think, a state there that says none of the above. We don't have a none of the above. But I knew that on that day, I wanted to go to the polling booth. I wanted to be with Ghanaians in the line. It is actually a special day. I think that it is the day that I feel some positiveness. You see, I feel like we go to the line, and so I wanted to be part of it. When I was at the booth, I didn't like the options before me, so I, in my own private, because who counts? Nobody counts spoiled ballots. You know, we don't go towards a party. Mm-hmm. But it was my own. It was for my own. You know, I needed to do that as a citizen, but then I needed to also be honest with myself and say, I don't like any of these people. I'm spoiling my ballot. It was a deliberate decision. So I do understand Ghanaians when a certain section express frustration with leadership choices. Because it seems as though we go to the polls, we vote for people, and then nothing happens. And a lot of the times, you know, people say, oh, Africans, we vote along ethnic lines, or we do this and that. And I'm like, so imagine I go to the Volta region, I convince people in the Volta region to vote NPP, and I go to the Ashanti region and do the same thing. What do I get in the end? I still get the same Ghanaian voter. And our inability to hold our government accountable, how we give up on the pressure on us to vote and elect a leader, that pressure lifts in the next 3 years. But then that's where we should even apply more pressure. So what is your responsibility? If somebody, a lot of people are very passionate about parties, and that's a good thing, eh? After you are passionate and your party has won, you are passionate how you've gone and voted, you've done your own individual campaigning, your party has won. You have responsibility as a citizen, after we have declared, to make sure your party meets what it said it was going to do. We don't do that. Likewise, your party didn't win, but you have a responsibility to keep that party that didn't win on their toes. And you also have to engage with the new leadership to make it work. So the issue really, the big issue that we don't talk about is that our democracy is not only about our elections. It is much bigger than our elections. And we need to go back to applying the same pressure. The way in which Ghanaians comport ourselves and we understand the issues and we are clear, we're going to vote, we're going to do it peaceful. Look, the day they announced the election petition judgment, look at the way we just comported. In fact, we just sat at home and waited for Atiguba. He came 2 minutes and we were like, okay, that was fun. Bye-bye. We are done now, you see. And the ways in which we have built our capacity in the whole electioneering, we need to do the same with issues of accountability, with issues of transparency and demand and parliament. And it is the greatest burden. We cannot choose. What we cannot do, continue to do, is to choose a democracy, and then when in fact it gets difficult, because leadership will make it difficult, we now understand that they will resist. Then when it gets difficult, we can't give up, because this is governance by the people. We have a say. It is our taxes. It is our people. We stand in line. We suffer their misrule, and likewise when they do good things, we benefit. So yeah, go and vote. But beyond voting, ask yourself, in what ways can I continue to be that good citizen I was on election day?
Okay. Now, I've got some messages from some people about, some of the issues that you raised. Let me just try and find the very first one. Nukunu Fogat says that this government allows big space for the youth and disabled persons. Do you agree?
No.
Do you agree? Esinam.
Big space is very relative, but no, I don't think it's that big.
Okay, we'll go on to the next message. Ghana for you, that's at Asafo9, says the nation hasn't achieved anything. It's been hijacked by fraudulent and gangsterish people since we decided to adopt democracy. Kina, true or false?
Repeat that again. It's very harsh. Even
Ghana has been hijacked by fraudulent and gangsterish persons since 1992 when we adopted democracy. Very, very harsh. I mean, I don't think
we've been hijacked. Well, but the fact is that we have allowed ourselves to be hijacked.
But not by
no. But by I always say that the ways in which it looks like it's like they have antitrust. There's this thing called antitrust where companies get somewhere and they collude on prices. So I always say it's like the political parties get into a room and they have agreed on a minimum performance and nobody is going to ever outpace that. So it's almost as though we've been hijacked by some lack of movement, but a system that is very much vested in election and selecting power.
Okay.
But that seems to not be able to move our issues forward once they come into power.
Okay. Jane says Joshua shouldn't be too disappointed with the University of Ghana. Even the Parliament House that passed the disability bill is not disabled friendly. True. It's true, right? Yeah, so you can calm down.
And on a symbolic level, the Parliament is our greatest home. So if you have put up a building and it's not accessible to a sizable population of Ghana, symbolically, forget actual reality. What are you trying to say? What are we Ghanaians trying to say to people with disability? What we're saying is that they don't matter. If we all had to gather symbolically in this space called the Parliament, they wouldn't have access.
Right. Ejay Gawa says, Nanaba, forget about University of Ghana. I've seen disabled persons try to access footbridges. It is just a pathetic sight. It looks like it's a long list there.
And what I want to say is that when, we tend to also Can I use your phone for an example? So a person with disability, and we are talking about physical and also vision.
Yeah.
We've not brought that in. But if this iPad, I'm presuming, is more expensive than this one for the sake of argument. But if this is what it takes for an able-bodied Ghanaian to access services, education, governance, and this is what we have to pay for a person with disability to access the same services, equity, and when you deal in freedom and independence, says the cost of this and the cost of this are the same. Even though this may be 200 Ghana cedis and this may be 100 Ghana cedis, you pay this because this and this are the same. This is what we do not seem to want to do. So then we tend to say that this is the normal cost and this is extra. I mean, and this is what we say, we'll get to this when we get there, but we never do. But these two, we have to stop thinking, and that is what it means when we talk about equity and equal access. Equal access doesn't mean that the amounts you spend are the same, the resources are the same. What it means is that you spend some amount to get to equal access. So in the ideology and of freedom and equal access, these two things are the same. The costs are different, and we are always stuck on the cost. The cost being the cost to, and when I say cost, I mean money, I mean resources, but I also mean things like our own sensitivities, our kindness. It all comes at a cost. We are willing to pay this and we're not willing to pay that.
True.
You know, a quick one. A friend of mine had to do his pupillage at the Attorney General Department. Okay. It will take an able-bodied person 2 cities to move from Legon to the Attorney General Department. But because he was a person with disability, he has to go by taxi. He has to go dropping. And you can imagine the
because the trotro drivers will not allow
the fact that when you even get up from your hall, how do you get to the bus stop where you are going to pick a trotro? Right. And how accessible is the trotro? And you know, someone from the legal front, your appearance is also another part. Then I was just asking myself, didn't the state know that persons with disability will need this? So that even if it is the office, that a car will be made available just to pick the person in the morning and drop the person.
Are your voices heard at all? I mean, do you talk enough? Do you bark enough?
Yeah, we've been doing our own things. Just as we are speaking now, we have had a consultative meeting and we have come out with a position we are presenting to that's Elvis.
You know him?
Yes.
You know him? That driver didn't allow him to board.
Two different.
Yeah.
Oh, it happens. You stop a car, when they look at it, they say, it is that you are disabled.
They just go.
They just go.
What?
I left my sciences and went into the business because of that. It happened to me at Kolebu. When they had to come and pick my original results, the guy looked at me and said, are you sure you have also been invited here? I wanted to do lab tech. I studied physics, chemistry, biology in the secondary school. And for all you know, I was the only student who sat and passed my that year in that school. I got there and I got so much disappointed. So when I left, I forgot about the sciences. Then I moved to the applied sciences. Ended up with a business school.
This is shocking.
Yeah, that is what is happening in Ghana. The private school, I said I went there to teach. I went there with a group of people. They were interviewed. You know how my interview went? Okay, get a chalk, go teach. Let's see.
Are you serious?
So I see if I knew this. I went into the class, and for the next 3 hours, I was teaching. I taught elective maths, I taught core maths in 3 different classes.
Because they didn't believe
They didn't believe it. So when I finished, the headmaster said, no, you said you want to be a part-time teacher. Can you apply to become a regular? I said, no, I want to do part-time.
Okay, that got her sipping some water.
So it's like, as you were saying, there's cost, but it's worth it.
Of course, definitely, it is completely worth it. Completely.
So we're saying that we are proposing that political parties should put it as part of their manifestos that, well, if we form the next
She mentioned something very important. I mean, we get the political parties, we give them so much power, and then we vote for them. One of them, comes out victorious at the end of the day. How do you demand accountability from the political? How have you demanded accountability from the NDC that is in power right now?
Yeah, that is where we are moving towards the accountability. This time, what the disability movement is doing is that we have come up with key issues on employment, inclusive education, mental health, and then accessibility that we are presenting to the political parties. We want you to make commitment, make it pronounced when you mount campaign platforms. Let it feature.
Sometimes they say things that will get you interested. They say all manner of things.
We are starting from somewhere.
Okay.
When you put it in your manifesto, when you say it on your campaign platform, and you form government, and that is not being done, we engage you and we let the public know. We let everyone know that this is what we agreed on with this person. But this is what he's not doing.
Okay. How are you? Okay.
So for especially the tertiary institutions, the presidents, the NUCs, the USACs, the PUSAC and whatnot, we want to have a yardstick to measure. So we want to, and this is something I'm cooking that I'll do in collaboration with all these leaders maybe in a month or two. We want to engage these political parties directly, have them talk to us. We want to ask them, what exactly do you want to do? When you assume office or you become the party or the government in power, whatever yardstick we've slated to measure your progress or whatever you have to do is what we'll measure you with. So at the end of the day, we look at what you're doing versus what you told us, and then we make sure we draw your attention to it. I think it's about time that we, like she said, we need to be on the demand side. We need to really critically ask them. There are certain African countries. I know Youth Break Foundation does these activities where they put together the young people from various African countries. They open a policy think tank. We come up with documents, present it to the various governments. There are Ghanaian citizens that sometimes get involved in these things. They bring down the working document. I don't think sometimes they're even factored in. And I'm not emphasizing any government. This is a leadership problem that we need to, address. We want to let you hear our voice or tell us more so what you want to do for us, and then we'll measure your efficacy based on what you told us previously.
And Kena, you from Ghana Decides, how are you helping these people to demand accountability?
Very good question. Actually, this year, our Ghana Decides is very much focused on voices. So, like, we have partnered with you. Our whole thing is to bring marginalized voices, youth voices, women's voices, voices of the poor into the spaces in which their issues would not ordinarily be discussed. Now, our audience is online, but our beneficiaries are offline. That's how I like to look at it. So a part of what we do is to diversify the conversations we have online to broaden the definition of what is a Ghanaian now, and thereby broadening the issues that we discuss, making people aware that there's a whole community of people we don't discuss online, and we need to feature them prominently in the issues. So that's what we are doing. So we inform, we engage, we give information, but we give prominence to the issues. We want to promote youth voices in the political space, very much like we're doing today.
Okay. Now, they all mentioned things they would want the political parties to feature in their manifestos. Now, the question I keep asking that when these political parties win the election, is the manifesto versus national aspirations, very, very critical. Majority of the time, they tell you, oh, when we were campaigning, we didn't know of this or that. How do we address this?
I think that the way the manifestos have gone, rightly, they go only so far. So there's a manifesto, and then the person comes into power, and then of course there's other programs they may want to do. It would be nice if they, because it's the party doing their manifesto, but sometimes they do their manifesto in reaction to what the opposing party is doing. So it would be nice, first of all, for the issues to be merged so that we actually know. So that it's not just a party manifesto, but it's also a manifesto of the candidates. Right. The ticket, what people call the ticket. So that we get to know what exactly the ticket is saying. The party really is a party, but it's the ticket. Within parties, people can even have disagreements. So we need to merge the manifesto with the ticket. Very, very important. But also, in terms of how we hold people accountable, we have to also look at strategies. There must be more network building and sort of like cross population of the issues, the youth must have networks with the persons with disability, all marginal. In fact, this is what, to get the voice that we want, we must articulate. And now we are all very different people, but we are very clear that these are issues that impact us as the greatest. So there has to be some kind of like movement, and I always talk about movement building, so that we can amplify the voices and not give up. I keep coming back to the Madame Teodoro. I've been looking up the flags. So I'm really into Madame Teodoro. So like I think, oh, how fantastic she put the black star there. But anyway, that's my issue. But when they decided to rename the hockey stadium and how hurt Ghanaians were, we were really hurt. I keep coming back to that. Is how come a lot of things hurt us. The floods and the tragedy, it hurts us. But Madame Teodoro, somehow it was a merging of how pained we were, and it went directly to the flag, you see. And she designed it, and I mean, all sorts of things came together to which I am not equipped to analyze. And we talked and talked and talked. To which then the president actually had to go and take a photo up with this woman. So I keep, and it was what had to happen, and thank God. But I keep coming back to that. What else do we need to do? In what ways, on all the other issues that are important to us, can we do something similar? Why is it that, for instance, we ourselves, the tragedy of June 3rd, we pick up issues and we drop them? I mean, if when June 3rd happened, by September, if you were not seeing massive infrastructure change around the areas of which flood, then you must know as a Ghanaian that the thing was going to repeat. We are now back in the same situation. So why do we wait? And why do we always think like, people died? So does that not pain us?
Yeah.
Does that not? And why are we so comfortable with us, our own people dying?
Right. We've got just 2 minutes more to wrap up. Joshua, I'll come for your last word, and then she would have a last word as well. So 2 minutes, a minute each.
Okay. What I can say is that the situation of the persons with disability in Ghana is actually appalling, and we are asking the entire Ghanaian community to actually support us in our struggle. So I was just talking about the ladies whose the pitch was going to be. I think people added their voices. But what do we see when it comes to disability issues? Somebody who is working at the seat of government is being paid by my own tax, can insult me using my sickness, and nobody sees anything wrong with that.
Meanwhile, we are all a second away from a disability.
Yeah. So we are compromised living in Ghana. We are all on some level marginalized. I mean, you just have to get sick.
Yeah.
And then you would know how really vulnerable you are when you are able-bodied. So
when CPP elected Ivor Greenstreet, see the statement that was made by one of their own, Nana Jantua. As I speak now, we will go to court. We are putting our resources together. On daily basis, we'll contribute. When we get the money, we'll get to court. For that one,
how much money are you looking for?
Oh, we're going to make a deposit of about 2,000 to get the legal team in place to start the whole thing. Then we'll see what we can do. So the society should also come to our aid. If we are talking about the various institutions, human beings who are working there, then you see your colleague human being in a situation where you can do something for that person to find.
Okay. Esinam, your last word.
This is more to my fellow young people. I feel that whatever government, whatever political party there is keenly interested in letting us get involved in the electoral process. It is our responsibility now to build our capacity to be able to match up with what goes on. As we speak, I'm sure there are a lot of students or a lot of young people who would not know what the constitutional instruments were from the 2012 election, what the developments came to with regards to what the Election Commission would do and would not do, should do. We should just get ourselves equipped with capacity building-wise, information, things that will help us to interact well with the political parties, get to really understand what they write in their manifestos. Then we can finally decide on what political party we want to go for or which government we want to support or not. It's a call to everyone. Let us start reading. Let us know that we need to be a part of it. For our young people who are not so much privileged education-wise, it is our responsibility to also help them to have a level understanding of what goes on. Then we can all contribute to the
Thank you very much. If I had more time, I would have asked you questions about the media's role. I know.
It's a whole different show.
I know. Thank God we've run out of time. Thank you very much. Kenan Likimani, project lead for Ghana Decides. Joshua Makubu, a rep of the Ghana Federation of Disability Organizations, and also Esinam Siadis, SRC president for the University of Ghana. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sending in your messages, and thank you. I can see that we are trending on Twitter. Thank you very much for your time. We'll see you same time tomorrow. Well, it's the business edition tomorrow of State of Affairs with Kweku Timing, and we'll be looking at the cost of floods to the economy. Do tune in if you can. Have a beautiful evening.